Namaste, everyone. I'm Sandy Graham, co-director of VASA and a member of the Vedic Friends Association. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished guests and speakers to Dharma Dialogues. Dharma Dialogues is held on the first Thursday of each month, and today's topic, which has been a very popular topic, is called Yoga and Ayurveda for Well-Being in the AI and Digital Age. Our special guest speakers today are David Frawley and Subhaj Kak. It's my pleasure to introduce our host, the president of Vedic Friends Association, Benny Tillman, Balabhadra Das. But before I begin, may I ask you to open the session with a Sanskrit invocation to honor the sacred lineage of the Gurus of Bharat, Benny, please?
Thank you, Sandy. Hare Krishna, everyone. Namaste. This is a very important prayer, appreciating all the acharyas and gurus in our line. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadhamayam Tadakte Swapadantikam. So, thank you all for being here. And I am truly honored to host this Dharma Dialogue. Our speakers today will approach this topic from various perspectives, and we're thrilled to have them here. I want to start with a very short reflection, interaction with my guru, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON. And it relates to what we're talking about today, AI and technology. So he had a conversation in 1975 as he was walking with his students. And one student said, earlier, you were saying that the Western world is spiritually blind and that India is technologically lame. But that if they combine their resources, then both India and the West will benefit. And he responded, Prabhupada responded, yes, if the Western world, the blind man, takes India, the lame man, on its shoulders, then the lame man can point the way spiritually, and the blind man can sustain them materially, technologically. If America and India pool their technological and spiritual resources, their combination will bring about perfect peace and prosperity all over the world. So I thought that was a very nice intro to this discussion. And it's my esteemed honor to introduce our speakers for today. I'll begin with Dr. David Frawley, also known as Vamanadev Shastri. He's one of the most respected global teachers of Vedic knowledge in the modern era. He's the founder and director of the American Institute of Vedic Studies in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and the author of more than 30 influential books on Vedic knowledge systems and ancient India. Widely honored as a Vedacharya and Shastri, Dr. Frawley is especially recognized as a pioneer in introducing Ayurveda, Vedic astrology, and the deeper dimensions of yoga and Vedanta to the Western seekers. In 2015, he received the Padma Bhushan, India's third highest civilian award, for his distinguished service in education and traditional medicine. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. David Frawley. And we have Subhaj Kak, Padma Shri Awardee 2019. Subhaj Kak is an Indian-American computer scientist and historical revisionist whose topics are the history of science, the philosophy of science, ancient astronomy, and the history of mathematics. Author of Search of the Cradle of Civilization, The Age of Artificial Intelligence, and many, many more. So to facilitate this wonderful, important conversation, we have with us Ram Bhakt. He's the author of A Seeker's Guide to the Yoga Sutras, an entrepreneur, and founder of Long Beach School of Yoga and My Yoga Network. So please help me welcome Ram Bhakt. Hare Krishna.
Ramji.
Ram, you're muted.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Um, Ram Ram, Namaste, Hare Krishna. Dr. Frawley, Vamadevji, thank you for taking this time, and Subhashji. So I wanted to have a chance to speak with you, Dr. Frawley, about your new book, and why you decided to write a new book, as well, some of the deeper dimensions that I feel like you've brought up in this book that are similar to previous books that you've written. So, can you say a little something about what drew you to write a new book on AI, and how the structure of this book is maybe different than other books you've written?
Yes, namaste. Very good to be with all of you, a great inspiration. And of course, this is part of our examination of the world in which we live, the time, the changes, the challenges, and how things affect us. I've been writing books now since about 1970. I did my first number of books on typewriters and then sending the copies of the text to India, whatever. But what this is about is civilization and knowledge. And here I like to be drawn back to this vision of Upanishads, where they talk about the two levels of knowledge. The lower knowledge, in which name, form, and number is known, and the higher knowledge, the self-knowledge, in which the Atma or the self is known. So those of us exploring science, knowledge, spirituality, it's clear we're being deluged by the outer calculations, and we're losing contact with the inner consciousness and also what we call the inner prana. And our society is in a crisis. We have all kinds of data and information, but we have very little realization. The outer knowledge gives us what I would call you might say, a secondhand reflection from the outside about details which may not be important. And what we've lost is the inner perception, the perception from the inside. And this is affecting our minds, our health, our consciousness. If we look at yoga and Ayurveda, in fact, you mentioned Yoga Sutras as well. We live in an electrified world of all these radio waves and media, etc. And that certainly disturbs the pranic flow within us. We become an artificial being or an artificial flow of these electrical forces. In terms of Ayurveda, this disturbs or deranges the doshas, particularly Vata dosha, which connects to these electrical pranic energies. And so now we're seeing a lot of disturbance in the minds and the digestive system and brain and nervous system, increased addiction, depression, anxiety. And we also have a loss of power via our senses. People say we're sensory oriented, but our sensory acuity is low. Our senses are disturbed, moving and changing. We're losing our in-depth perception. We're caught in the surface of things, and we're caught in an outer vision. We don't see ourselves at all. And we're living in a world of screens. This is an important and helpful screen we're looking at right now. But our mind is also becoming a screen. And yoga, of course, takes us most significantly also to the inner yoga, which is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Dharana, is the dharana shakti, the power of attention, concentration, awareness, and that is also disappearing. We don't have that. We're losing power of memory, discernment, and we're losing that ability to protect our mind or to see the difference of what is on the outside and one is what is coming on the inside. So in other words, we're being invaded from the outside. And the rule of yoga is whatever you give your dharana to, you become that. If you give your dharana to a little screen, you become a little screen. You become maybe a two-dimensional person. Subhaj Kak can take us into multiple dimensions, fortunately, but most of us are trapped in that surface. And then we become a little box, a little screen ourselves. And there's also the loss of memory, cause and effect, calm, patience, dhyana, meditation. And we don't even know about samadhi. As you know, what the Yoga Sutras is the Chitta Vritti Nirodha. It's stopping the outer mind, which is the state of samadhi. And then we have a society run by technocrats for whom everything is calculation, data, perhaps going to the level of money and votes. So it's a very challenging time. We do have access to the teachings from Yoga, Vedanta, the Eastern world, and all the teachings coming out of Bharat. Many of the great gurus have traveled, have left us with teachings, and there's great awakening going on. Just briefly, I want to say we're in a very auspicious time right now, this Thursday after the election in India a few days ago, and we see a revival of the dharmic forces on that side. And so we need to deal with all this technology. We need a yogic vision. We need dharana. We need the limbs of yoga. We need viveka, discernment. We also need detachment and an inner vision. The reality, the entire universe, as yoga says, lies within us in the small space within the heart. It's not necessarily a matter of better technology. And then, of course, science talks about cosmology. But again, the entire universe dwells within you. You are the cosmology. The cosmology is within you. The prana is universal. You're connected to a universal consciousness. So these are some of the factors I've been looking into here in this book and in other locations. Because if we as human beings don't connect to the Atma, don't connect to nature, to the conscious pranic universe, then we will continue to see the disruption and problems in society, artificiality, interference, again, loss of direct awareness of who we are and what the reality is. And as Subhaj Kak can tell you, there are many scientific developments. I mean, there are robots, there may be some little chip in your head that's defining you. As a writer, I've run into a couple of things now. AI was telling me what to do. I was starting a book. I don't know if an article, I might have said this to you guys before, and I get a message. Why don't you write on a new subject of 8-year-old girls and dinosaurs? I don't know where they got that. Then I put up an article of Subhaj Kak to read, and AI came back and says, you know, this article is too long and too technical. So I am willing as AI to shorten the article and scale it down so you can go through it quickly. So this is just a quick background. We all know about the dimensions of changes going on and the inner opportunities that are there, but we need to be taught those and brought in contact with them, the temple, the ritual, the guru, the teachings. It's time for that. And I'm not saying we need to throw the technology out, but technology is not your guru, but we need to be the guru of technology by being connected to the true guru within us, which is our own immortal self. It's not another person. It's not a book. It's not something from the outside. It is the very core of our being, the divine light, Satchitananda, within us. So that is what has motivated me. There's more that we can do. Technology has an outer place, but the great inner expansion of the higher knowledge of being and truth is what we really need for ultimate well-being, going beyond karma, and having the technology in a helpful place where it works for us rather than it programs, controls, or allows others to dominate our lives. Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you. Yes, and absolutely. I feel like your book shares a lot of sadhana, very like subtle tips, things to actually incorporate in our lifestyle to balance. So about being in nature and pranayama and, scents and herbs. So it was a very good survey of everything. Subhashi, you have written about artificial intelligence in a very technical way. And I think you have even said in one of the summaries, that I tried to understand that AI is a natural evolution of, you know, humanity or nature or, of our reality. So can you maybe give us a little context about how we can't escape this technology that's coming and maybe that it's a part of the natural prakriti, as you may have put it, of our human, movement through space. Your mic is off.
Yeah. Thank you, Ram, and thank you, Sandy, and everybody else for having me on this show. Charles Dickens starts his novel, A Tale of Two Cities, by saying it's the best of times and it's the worst of times. And that's precisely where we are right now. Best of times because of technology, which is also our tool, takes drudgery out of a lot of the stuff that we had to do before. And the worst of times for the same reason, because it's taking away our minds from us. And now here you have AI. There are several dangers which people are talking about. First of all, the impending collapse of the world population, and things have already started moving that way. China's population by the end of this century is expected to be 1/4 of what it is now. That's one side. The other side is that AI can do literally all that we do as human beings. It can talk, it can arrive at judgments, it can make jokes, it can drive your car. What else do we do? We have conversation with friends in a different style than conversation from people that we are not so friendly with. It can take any of those particular roles. And what this has done has brought us face to face with the question, who are we? And what I did in that particular article saying that AI is artificial nature is to make the point that just as nature has evolved, AI itself is an evolute of that process, because out of nature have come us, human beings and other animals, and also has arrived namely artificial intelligence. And AI chatbots can be used to price open a new kind of knowledge, which the designers of these chatbots themselves may not have access to. In other words, chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude and others, by assimilating whatever knowledge they have and doing it in some kind of a free-handed way, freewheeling way, can provide answers to you which could be very surprising and which could take you, meaning all of us, to new spaces. So this is the potential in AI itself. And as to what else AI can do, one possibility, of course, is in terms of contributions to science, etc. And that's already happened last year. People who won the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine had used AI to discover a whole series of new proteins of importance in health science. So while that is true, now one question that arises is, and I mentioned that briefly, is that are we different from AI? And I would like to submit that people, not just now, are mostly like AI. They live their life like AI. We are as robotic in our lives and in our interactions as these chatbots are. People have the same set lines at work. They've got some stuff, scripts, they repeat them. And I think it raises 2 points. One is that if you go and look back into history, you discover that this is not only recent. All across history over centuries, people have lived their lives according to specific scripts, whether they made sense or not. In fact, sometimes we can be astonished that how could these people, our forefathers and our ancestors, have believed in these fairy tales. And even now, people all around us, a lot of people believe in fairy tales. So this is a challenge to everybody. In what sense are we different from AI? And in fact, it's generally very difficult even to distinguish between what an AI chatbot does and what a human being does. If you have a conversation with them, hard to distinguish. And I think that brings up this whole question of the opportunity that lies before humanity, before all of us and humanity, namely an opportunity for each person to discover what is the spirit within them, what is the Atman, and how do we reach that core of our being. You have the gross body, the physical body, the subtle body, which is our intellect and so on. And then this is according to yoga and the Upanishads. And then you have the causal body. And the causal body is normally not accessible to you. And that's where the whole question of ego, etc., comes in. And it's when you uncover the causal body that you come closer and closer to the Atman within you. And the case could be made that how we live our lives is by covering up this lamp of consciousness within us through coverings. And self-discovery is to take off these coverings, to unveil these coverings and become one with the light. And I think with the challenge that the crisis of AI poses for everybody at their personal levels and also globally for societies to to decide on what course of action to take. What is the meaning of education? If education is all stories, why do you have to go to a college or university? And in fact, it's expected that hundreds of thousands of colleges in the US will shut down in the next few years. So, and every other job. So that is the challenge. But if you believe there is something more to you, as the Vedas tell us, as yoga tells us, then there is this great opportunity of the infinite that lies within each one of us, to which every human being has access. If they only were to have faith, Shraddha, and turn around and see themselves for what they are, because then not only would they know themselves, but they would have all kinds of amazing potential revealed to them of which they can partake, which will transform their lives. So I'll just stop here and then we can take it off from there as we go along in our conversation.
So Vamadev ji, obviously, if the AI is going to be doing things that we can do, it seems like we need to maybe work on ourselves to differentiate our own work from AI, or is there any particular need? Do you think that this has sort of hastened the speed of how much we need to go back inward? Has this kind of these new technological movements, do you think they're pushing us more towards inner seeking?
I think they're making the inner more important and relevant, but I don't think they're necessarily pushing us there because they have so much tremendous information and media. As Subhaj says, our mind is a programmed entity anyway. They can allow a more sophisticated program to come in. But at the same time, it's also challenging us to reconnect with nature and to recognize that I like to use the terms universal consciousness, that is nature and the universe, and universal prana. Prana is in everything, the waters, the sky, the stars. And we as human beings are just one species, which is rather limited because it's physically based. And as Subhaj says, we don't even have a connection hardly with the causal body except in deep sleep. But the causal body connects us to the cosmic intelligence. It's great to connect to the internet, but if we could access the cosmic intelligence, Mahatattva or Ishvara Chaitanya or even Atman, then we can go even further. So the important thing to recognize is that the technology is a phase. I mean, the other problem we have to see is human beings have a tendency to weaponize whatever new technology they get, whether it's a sword, whether it is a gunpowder, whether it is nuclear. So AI and the new technology requires a higher level of ethics, and it requires some global vision and a coming together of humanity, countries, a real United Nations, which of course we don't have. So the challenges are also there, and who is programming the technology? It's not coming there without an agenda. We human beings have our karma. So the AI can give us more information, better communication, can open up some of the mathematical secrets of the universe, but we still have to deal with our own karma, and we have to develop our own consciousness, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, which is again not calculatable, and we have to go beyond the calculating mind and see things as they are and be receptive to nature and recognize that the universe dwells within us. Our prana is spread throughout everywhere. The universal prana is within us. Consciousness is in everything. And it's not simply data we need or calculation we need, but the presence of awareness and the ability to link together through the samadhi. Samadhi, as yoga teaches us, is the only true pramana or means of direct knowledge, direct experiential knowledge, knowledge by identity, as Sri Aurobindo says. And I don't know if AI can get there, but it's something we do need to cultivate, and we need to have that awareness that can be moment by moment awareness, that is not simply piled up in terms of certain formulas. We have other challenges. We have the challenge of the chemical medicine that's taking over everything, the pharmaceutical dominance, and even there's a lot of calculation issues that come in that need to be questioned or can be questioned. At the same time, we do have some benefits, and we do have to use those, but we also always have to go back to our inner being, learn to share our inner being with all, bring the temples back, the power and the vision and the wisdom of silence, or going up to samadhi. So that is a tremendous challenge. And it obviously, there are many things going on. It's easier to control other people through media and other factors. It's easier to make new weapons, and it's easier to change. And now we've made our virtual reality outwardly more important than who we really are inwardly. So it raises fundamental questions. So let's examine these as well, and not demonize anyone or anything, but recognize we need to know how to harmonize these factors. Universe is not a machine, but it is a kind of organic entity with related forces like we have, like prana, mind, perception, hearing. And it's something we can connect to at a deeper level, so we become the Purusha, the self of all, and manifest, of course, in the fragile human body. But that is where we need to go. And AI shows opportunities, but also the challenges that need to take us there. And also, on the positive side, connecting the world together. And if it can then also be used to give understanding and importance to yoga, meditation, and the non-quantitative ways of knowing, and the infinite and eternal way of being. Hari Om.
Yes, I mean, Subhashji, like you, I think are on the driver's seat of the technology, right? If maybe artificial intelligence is moving very fast and some of us are, it's going to hit us later. It seems like you are ahead of the road on this. Um, so as a practitioner, you know, inside of computer science and dharmic, you know, sadhaka, I guess, you know, I would assume, how do you what do you think about the right use of AI and whether it's going to take over your attention or personality or dharana? Uh, so what do you think about an intelligent or maybe a more enlightened use of this technology?
Well, at one level, AI is just an instrument, right? But even the mind is an instrument, antahakaran, the inner instrument. So it's an instrument. It can be put to good use or not so good use. So that's one point. Second is the way these LLMs gather up information. Uh, they are how you interact with them. Your consciousness can extract new kind of information from the LLMs. So it may, it's like books. You may have a million books in the library, but you need a discerning person to extract knowledge from the books. So likewise, AI may appear just compendiums of information, but if your mind is trained, uh, you can obtain powerful information out of it. So that's one side. The other side is um, the the fact, and this is something that also comes out of my own research. What we have discovered is that binary way of looking at reality is not optimal. Uh, a ternary way is, and that brings in Ayurveda into the picture, because Ayurveda is a ternary, a three-sided view of the body, right? And three gunas as well. While Western medicine is a binary one, where you talk of the body being out of kelter, so to speak, ill or normal. So that's not right at all. And in fact, research has been published in the last 20, 30 years, which shows that 80 or 90% of all the medical research which was peer reviewed on further investigation turned out to have been wrong. So, and the reason why that happened was, one is, of course, confirmation bias. Doctors want their ideas to be confirmed by the research. And the second thing is the way you set up those experiments. It just leaves out so many factors that it doesn't pan out. And now that is one of the biggest challenges facing society, the health, wellness, and that's also one of the topics of today's discussion. Wellness, how do you go to a state of wellness in this current state where you have AI becoming a more and more of a dominant force, and with information flooding your mind, and with social media forcing you to go from one screen to another, so that, as David said, our world itself becomes two-dimensional rather than multidimensional. So all of those challenges, and that's when, going back to nature, as has always been the case, nature is the great teacher. And It's not that it's only AI that is guiding us. The goddess guides us, really. And goddess, at this particular point, the Devi, is sending signals to anybody, to everybody who would listen. And in fact, the case can also be made that illness is a consequence of the individual not listening to the signals being communicated to the person from the goddess, right? So if you only listen, I think we need some kind of a movement everywhere, that how do you get in touch with nature within you? And paradoxically, even the nature of LLMs, because it's not structured, it's not as in hardbound books where you go from one topic to another, has the potential, or so I claim, has the potential to help you get in touch with your own nature. Because ultimately, it's only nature, it's only the goddess who can take you to some other place from where you are. So I'm personally very hopeful. I'm hopeful on so many grounds: scientific, psychological, even the potential for medicine and wellness itself going to another space where more importance is given not just to the body, but also the mind body complex. And while the mind itself may be an instrument, but it's an instrument with tremendous potential, because if it is the problem, it's also the solution. So, how do we do all of that? And just the recognition that we have all these challenges um, provides within it, that challenge itself has within it the seed for you to know where the solution might lie.
Yes. So Vamadevji, your approach overall, or your conception of AI and its growth within our society, do you take a positive, negative, neutral? What are your overall thoughts about what its effects are going to be and how we're going to come through as a society?
Well, obviously, AI is challenging, but everything that goes on in human evolution can be challenging. New technologies are challenging. New medicines are challenging. So there are challenges there. But at the same time, we are also connecting to other sources of knowledge. AI is a certain source of knowledge, but we also have access to meditation, mantra, to dharmic traditions. So let's at least put those side by side and see how they interact. Again, it's the question of developing the knower, not just increasing the instrument of knowledge. You know, you can give a telescope to a blind person, but it's not going to make them see better. So I think it's very important that we put the yogic knowledge in another place, and an equal place at least, and use them together. We need rishis as well as scientists, and a true scientist is a rishi of source. Their discoveries are through an inner vision, not just simply through outer calculations. And we have to recognize that all of nature dwells within us. We are part of nature. Vedas speak of Purusha, Paramatma. They speak of the universal person. Purusha, Purushe Vedam Sarvam, the Purusha as everything. We are in one organic, conscious, living universe that goes into different dimensions of and lokas. As Subhaj said, we have the subtle realms, we have the causal realms, we have the transcendent. So AI should be inspiring us to a greater self-examination and self-awareness that can use technology, but is looking to the structure of the universe, to, for example, the intelligence that is not just in the human body, but pervades space, but pervades all of light. And prana is also an evolutionary force. To stay alive, creatures had to have a pranic evolution of their motor organs, sense organs, all of that. So there is an evolution of prana and consciousness coming into human beings relative to the technology, but also relative to our history. And we need to then bring yoga in. Sri Aurobindo says that evolution is an evolution of consciousness. All life is yoga. This is what we have to bring in. So it's not a matter of saying the AI is bad, but how do we integrate these factors into this universal harmony? How can we use AI to communicate better with the rocks? You know, rocks are pretty smart. They've been here for millions of years, and they have that intelligence to pass on to you if you can be open. That's why they can make wonderful temples. All of that. Atmospheric things can change in a few minutes and over the day, thunder, all of that. So we need to integrate our human intelligence, our mechanical, technological intelligence, and the greater intelligence of the earth, the nature, the universe, the cosmos. And there are the devatas who are divine and cosmic forces. There are the gurus, there are the rishis, there are the lokas that we can connect to the sages. There is besides the AI, there is the consciousness and the connection at a causal level, at the level of the Akasha. Akasha is full of wisdom, Chitakasha, the very consciousness that pervades that, and learn to connect our minds with that so there can be an evolutionary change and expansion of the mind, not just a manipulation of the brain through chemistry and technology alone. It has to awaken that inner being above and behind the brain and the mind, consciousness behind the mind, the ultimate self-awareness that can embrace the entire universe. From the standpoint of our higher consciousness, the entire universe and all of space can be found at every point. All of time can be found at every instant. So let us go back to that Rishi vision and integrate that with the technology and allow the technology to have a place, but not tell us who we are, but help us understand what is the self, what is the power, the intelligence of the entire universe. Hari Om.
Subhashji, I mean, so do you see that we are probably, I mean, this AI is going to be, let me think, I'm trying to think of my last point. Maybe I've run out of questions.
Okay, let me help you with a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the question arises, where is everybody going? And I think what is obvious is that it's going to be a time of great dislocation. Firstly, job losses. I think they will only accelerate because literally anything that we humans do at work, computers, humanoid robots, and others will be able to do better. So if everything is going to get worse, how will things go better? You know, how can better come from worse? And how it comes from, there is a paradoxical thing, of course, in the yogic and the Vedic tradition, is that for knowledge, you have to go through suffering, tapas, heat. And where does suffering come from? When people look at their situation, you know, right now, I believe even graduates at Stanford and Harvard who graduated last year, only 50% of them have found jobs. Why? Because of AI. So if people realize that, look, what you had taken for granted in your life, you know, you went through college, then there was a regular job, there was certitude in stages of your life. Things are not that clear. People will be, if they had the courage to go off watching reels on their phone, on social media, and ask that difficult question of themselves, the answer they'll get from themselves. The answer is within. There is a tradition in Kashmir Shaivism, which is called Pratyabhijna, which means self-recognition. The self is within you, or in the Vedas, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, or Shivoham, I am Shiva, I am consciousness. So if you explore the very essence of your consciousness, and that's where paradoxically the use of AI will force people to do that questioning. Because, even in the past, I remember when I was a young boy in my town, or wherever I grew up, in several towns back in India, people used to spend all their life reading newspapers, adults I'm talking of, from cover to cover, 16 pages, every minor piece of information. And then we entered the radio age, and people were listening to songs from morning to night. Then TV, you come back from work, you plonk on your sofa and you watch or see TV for 5 hours. So I think now, since the context of all information has become so clear, and all information that you need is at your fingertips, I think more people would have the courage to ask of themselves, who am I? Which is the very heart of Vedanta. Who am I? And just asking this question takes you down a path of discovery. In fact, just asking this question itself is the elementary step of yoga.
So
And
these are
yoga
these are
and
the types of
Ayurveda.
these are the types of questions people are going to have to be asking more of, right?
Absolutely.
Once all of our mental faculties are outsourced.
Right.
Is that how you think that education might need to change?
Oh, absolutely, because parents would ask the question, why am I paying $80,000 or $100,000 a year for my child's son's or daughter's education at college, when if you really audit what they've learned are storybooks. Most subjects are storybooks. History, education, psychology, these are storybooks. And all that information is available for free at various sites. So I think hard questions are going to be asked, not just in education, at every field. And the same thing is going to happen in design. You can use these chatbots to do your design. You can ask them, you can ask them to write for you, and they write pretty good, I can tell you that. In fact, as part of a big poetry group in North America, and they had their annual meeting, and they wanted me to speak there. And as a background, what I did was I asked these chatbots to write some poetry. I gave them a couple of lines, and I can tell you the poems they churned out were awesome. And now the poetry community in the US is in a state of crisis. What we used to spend 4 days or 5 days or a week to write, the chatbot can churn out in just a second. So questioning, this is where it's going to go, and that is the heart of Veda. That is the heart of yoga. Questioning is the first step. And then the goddess provides you the answers, and you have to let the goddess guide you. Um, you know, Research has been done in the West on how do people make great discoveries, and they have found that these discoveries occur spontaneously. People have been questioned, scientists and others. They say, well, I don't know where the discovery came from. I was sleeping, or I was dozing, or I saw in my trance, I saw a vision. So I think all of that, which people used to take for granted, and they moved on and did this or that in their life, now face to face with all these questions, what am I doing? If what I'm doing can be replicated by the machine, then let me ask the hard questions of myself. And if you ask the hard questions, you shall be given the answers by the goddess.
Well, this goddess is, I'm afraid, going to have to interrupt you because we're a bit left. So thank you very much to David and Subhash and to Ram. It was lovely. As everyone can see, this conversation could go on from so many different facets. And I think we've talked behind the scenes, and we're thinking that we should really explore some more specific things about AI and do a part 2. I did like what Ramadev said, that who is monitoring AI? Who are these responsible people? And I think was a really good point. There were many good points made by both speakers. So thank you so very much. Great questions, Ram. We're now going to take questions from the audience. So if you have a question, raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat box and I can read it if you prefer that way. We'll give about 10 or 15 minutes for questions. And it's so nice to see so many people from all over the world: India, Guyana, California, Georgetown, Vancouver, New York, Vrindavan, India. I mean, time zone didn't seem very important. Everybody's here. So thank you so much for joining us. All right, Sharon, you have a question? We'll start with you.
It's actually not a question, but I'm actually so happy I'm in a group where I can say what I'm going to say. This piece of sodalite saved my life in 1988. Stones can be very healing. And then regarding to what you said, Dr. Frawley, about we go for something destructive first. My dad actually knew Orville Wright, and Orville was very upset that his invention was being used for war.
Thank you, Sharon. Anybody else have a question?
Yes, I would like to ask, on the point that was made that we are, and I won't be able to say specific, but we are, becoming more like robots or more like AI or the reflection of AI. And then in that point, how do we find our inner self? I would like some more elaboration on that, please.
Were you addressing that question to? Which speaker?
I don't mind anyone taking it.
Thank you. Who would like to take that one? David, I think you kind of touched on that spot.
Yes, well, a few points. One, it's not just education we need sadhana. And sadhana should be part, and meditation should be part of higher education, but we don't have it in the higher education. And we also have to remember that whatever we occupy ourselves with, give our attention to, we tend to become that. Sometimes I tell students that we let people into our minds we'd never let into our homes. So we need to have that deeper sensitivity, and we need to cultivate a more positive awareness. I mean, we can be afraid, we know there's difficulties and dangers, but we also have to look for a way of transcendence, not just simply being caught in the battle, but how do we move beyond? And consciousness is that point of transcendence of the duality. And look to our gurus and guides throughout history. Many have been alive in modern times, have the inner faith and insight, the positive attitude. We have to be like Shiva. We have to be like, look what happened to Sri Ram, with Krishna. We have to bring the devatas in. The devatas are the cosmic powers, the cosmic intelligence that can raise us up and open us up. And the power of mantra, meditation, temples, rituals. We need that technology as well, the technology of the rishis and the yogis. And we need to rebuild our society with sacred spaces, or connect to the sacred spaces in nature. Subhaj gave us these wonderful pictures of Zion that certainly transform you without any technology or without even necessarily needing any other people. So we need to expand, again, open to the awareness of the entire universe within you. And you know you are eternal. You're going to live forever. The being, the consciousness will, the body will change, etc. But let us take this, get a new sense of aspiration, not just simply struggle and calculation, new poetry, new philosophy, and let us go into the being, not just the appearance, and let us be one with things at the level of being, not just simply being able to give them the name, form, and number. And the entire universe is Devi, is Shakti. There's a Shakti in the planets, the sun, the earth, all of it. So let us embrace that. And we will be taken care of if we connect to our inner being and honor nature and honor the devas.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Well said. All right. Any other questions? Anybody have a comment? Raise your hand. We have another VFA speaker on, Jeffrey Armstrong. Jeffrey, would you like to say a few words before we close? You need to unmute, Jeffrey, please.
Thank you very much. So upon reflection, there's something at the root of this, and I would like you to think that it's having only one lifetime, because that's what I call a die. You only get one shot, you get one birth, that's that, then you die, then you're gone. Well, AI is just as foolish. AI says that everything is artificial and doesn't challenge us to understand that we're immortal. Not only that, we're a person. And AI disagrees. Well, then AI is wrong. I say AI is wrong. And AI can only argue with me and say, no, you're not a person. And I can say, well, you're not, so how do you know? You don't know what a person is, and you never will. So you're just BS, not AI. You are confused by only having one lifetime. You're the alternative to one lifetime religion. The Vedic culture starts with you're immortal, you can't die. And AI can't do that. So there you have it.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else before we go and sign off? I don't want to keep anybody too long here. We try to keep this to an hour. So I hope that the next event is June 4th and that you will join us then. Sign up now if you want. And these are recorded and you can see them a few days later after they're edited. So Benny, do you have any final words before we go? And again, thank you for everybody for being here. It was lovely seeing you again this month.
Yeah, I've been fascinated, informed, and just because I use a lot of AI in my music production, and I had to wrestle with the idea of being a real musician or an AI musician until I did a lot of research and realized that it's a tool. It's a tool that can be used if you know how to use it, if you have the right intention. So this conversation tonight really gave me a lot of food for thought, and I thank you very much. And Ram, Bhakt, you did an excellent job of moderating this. It was fantastic. Really appreciate that. And Subhaj Kak, always enjoy hearing you speak. It's very educational. And our dear Vamnadev Shastri, you're one of my inspirations or mentors. Appreciate you so much. And Sandy, of course, your leadership, without it, this doesn't work. So thank you for all that you do. Anyway, if today's gathering was meaningful to you, we warmly invite you to make a small contribution at VFA-VedicFriends.org. Your support helps us continue offering programs like this. We'd also love to hear your suggestions on topics you'd like us to explore in future Dharma dialogues. This is very important, so please give us some ideas of what you'd like to hear us present. If you'd like to join our volunteer team, please contact us through the website, VFA-VedicFriends.org. Thank you again, and we hope to see you next month. Hare Krishna and Namaste.